Hi everybody, I'm Esther Emery. I'm the homestead wife over at the DIY and homesteading channel Souchamatic Off Grid. But today you're on my personal channel and this is a tutorial. I'm going to show you how I can peaches. We like to get fruit and vegetables that we can't grow ourselves directly from people who do. So we drove to an orchard. We got 2 bushels of peaches, which is about 100 pounds of peaches. And we'll make 7 canner loads of peaches. That's about 49 quart jars of peaches that look like this. There are several safe and correct ways to can peaches. The method that I'm going to be showing you today is a hot pack canning quarters in medium sugar syrup. And don't worry if those words mean nothing to you. We'll show you as we go. We're going to be working with a hot water bath canner today. Now, when you need to decide between a hot water bath canner or a pressure canner, this is not one of the things that is just a matter of personal preference. You need to know whether the fruit or vegetable is a high acid food or a low acid food. Peaches are pretty high in acid, and so we're going to be able to use the hot water bath canner. I could pressure can peaches for a shorter processing time, but most people don't do a pressure canner at all for peaches because they can, the higher temperature or the pressure can make your peaches mushy, and who likes mushy peaches? We've got our jars already heating up in the hot water bath canner. And we've got our lids nice and warm in this little pot right here. We've got 3 pots of cooking liquid for cooking the peaches and our blanching water for blanching. First, I'm going to make my sugar syrup. I'm going for a medium sugar syrup, which is approximately 1 part sugar and 2 parts water. When I say approximately, you know, you can get the little charts that tell you 1 1/4 and 2 2/3 and 7/16. And when I'm canning 7 canner loads of peaches in a day, I don't do a 1/4 cup of anything. This is about 3 cups of sugar. I'm going to pour it in my pan. I'm going to do the same amount of water 2 times. It's very common to pack fruit in sugar syrup, but it's not by any means necessary. You can pack the fruit in water. The sugar is mostly just for flavor, although it does maintain texture of the fruit over time. If I weren't going to can it in sugar, the next thing I would do is fruit juice. I've had some success canning in fruit juice. The major reason we don't do it is that it's an added expense and it's somewhat wasteful because we don't get our kids to drink the juice. So the sugar is kind of an old-fashioned, very affordable way to go about it. And you can do a lighter sugar syrup by doing less sugar, or a heavier sugar syrup by doing more sugar. I'm going to take my approximately 9 cups of cooking liquid and divide it into 3 pots because I'm going to be cooking 3 batches. Now I'm going to begin to prepare the fruit. Most of having beautiful peaches, good-looking peaches, is the exact ripeness. If your peaches are a little bit more ripe, they'll be sweeter tasting, but if you want them to look great in the jar, you want them a little bit less ripe. They're less likely to float if they're less ripe, and they're gonna stay intact in their shape better. These are kind of in between, which is actually just perfect. So I'm gonna wash them well, blanch them, take the skins off, and then we'll cook them briefly, and then we'll pack them cooked into our jars, and that's what's called a hot pack. We figure that 5 peaches fills a jar, so we're gonna wash 35 peaches to do a canner load. There probably will be a little bit left, but there's no shortage of mouths around here to eat those leftovers for us. Now before I blanch these peaches, I'm going to score them or cut the quarter lines I want these to end up in quarters. Do you see this line, that's kind of the seam of the peach? That's going to be in line with the shape of the peach pit. I'm going to go ahead and cut right down to the peach pit, but not breaking it off of the pit. I'm going to let my knife go all the way around. And then I'm going to do the same at exactly a 90-degree angle. And I'm going to blanch my peach just like that. This is how we get really clean looking quarters, and it also just makes it easier to get the peels off. Some people just make a little X on the bottom to be able to make it easier to get the peels off. But we're going to cut them in quarters eventually anyway, so doing it before we blanch the peach is the best way for us. Now I'm going to put this whole basket in the blanching water for 60 seconds. We use a basket to blanch, but my mother swore by 2 potato mashers. She kind of cupped the 2 potato mashers under the fruit. Now we have cold water to stop the cooking. If you have ice, use it. Ice is a wonderful thing, but of course we don't have any, so this will work fine. Peaches, when they are ripe, are very fragile, and after they've been blanched, they're even more fragile. So to split the pieces apart, I kind of open my hands like this. Don't press too much, and I just twist. And it brings the pieces apart without any bruising. Sometimes I have to do it again. I'm going to save my pits and my skins to make jelly. Now, if your peach is precisely ripe, the peels should just slide right off like this. And you know what? That was a perfect peach. This quarter's perfectly ready. I'm going to put it in my sugar syrup cooking liquid. If your peaches aren't quite perfectly ripe, the peels won't come off so easily. But this is really a good, easy one. And sometimes I'll dip it back into the cool water, because if you have little bits like this hanging off, it'll make your water look cloudy. We like a good presentation around here. I figure if you're going to be putting this much work into something, it really feels good if it looks nice, if it feels like your best work. And then sometimes you'll want to grab your knife and repeat. So gentle twist. This time the pit came apart, which means that I'm going to go ahead and use my blade to cut it out. These are Red Globe peaches, which are a freestone peach, not a clingstone peach. There are kinds of peaches that have, you really can't get the pits out without cutting them out at all, ever. And you can can those peaches, but you wouldn't be able to do that. You'd have to use the knife every single time. And then if it sticks a little bit, then that's a spot where it wasn't quite as ripe. And I just use my knife to cut it out, to cut the peel off. And sometimes this area right here has little crunchies on it, and we don't want those. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. And likewise, if I see something that looks pretty bruised, I'm going to cut that out as well. Lots of people can peaches in halves rather than quarters. And I do think that looks nice, but I find it a little bit more difficult to accomplish. So that's why we do it with quarters. It's actually just a little easier for us. And we are doing a hot pack rather than a raw pack. So if anybody watched my corn video last week, that was a raw pack, meaning that we poured the hot cooking liquid over the top of the corn before it was cooked. This is a hot pack, meaning that we're going to cook in small batches. We're going to cook the peach quarters in their cooking liquid, and then we're going to pack that all together. Now I'm going to keep preparing peaches, blanching 5 at a time. I'm going to keep preparing peaches into here until I have about 12 or 13 peaches in here. And then I will cook this first batch. Here's my first batch of about 12 or 13 quartered peaches that I put over on the warmer part of the stove. I'm going to bring this to a boil. I'm going to boil it for 3 minutes. I would boil it for 5 minutes if I were doing halves. Now sometimes you try that twisting trick and it just breaks up the edges of the fruit. This is because I have a piece of fruit here that's very unripe up here and yet very soft down here. So I'm going to take my knife and just wiggle in between the two until I can get my thumb in there, and then that's how I'm going to break it up. And then when I have a piece of fruit that's like that, I probably am going to cut away the part that got smushed. If you don't, that's still good fruit, but it'll give you that kind of feathered out, stringy look in your finished peach jar. So if you're trying to avoid that, you'll want to cut it away. And you don't really want to be storing your lowest quality fruit. You want to be storing in this form, your highest quality fruit. When I am sorting out, I've also made a box. There's not a lot in there right now, but for jam or for making peach butter, if you have fruit that is lower quality, you want to use that for your jam. And then these really perfect looking quarters like this one are the ones that you want to put in your canning jars. I think a lot of people can peaches because they can so well. They retain their flavor and texture, and they're just such a wonderful treat in the wintertime. It feels just like summer. To be able to pull out a peach cobbler in the wintertime is a real treat. I wouldn't say though that they're the easiest thing to start canning on because the fruit is fragile and requires a little bit of care to prepare. If I were just starting to can, I probably would start with applesauce. That's probably the first thing I would do. Now I have 2 batches ready. This one just came to a boil. I'm going to start the timer for 3 minutes. And I'm going to avoid stirring it because I don't want to bruise anything. But you can see that's just now boiling. We're going to keep it like that for 3 minutes. And then this one, this one just went on the heat. At this point, it's very handy to have 2 people because I'm still preparing the 3rd batch while the first 2 are ready to put in jars. So it's good to have a buddy. It's always good to have a buddy when you can, because otherwise it can get really repetitive and tiresome. I really believe that the harvest is supposed to be good for our bodies and good for our souls. So if it's possible to make canning into something that's joyful rather than a real drag, that's definitely what we're aiming for. I'm going to start packing my partially cooked fruit into hot, clean jars. I use a spoon with slots in it, holes in it, so that, oh, I need my thing. Here we go. So that the liquid drains out, and I'm going to fill the jar with the peach quarters before I put in the liquid. Every once in a while I'm going to shake it gently side to side so that they fall to the bottom. And I'm just going to pull cooking liquid out of the same place I pulled the peaches from. So I'm using this spatula to get any air bubbles out and also to kind of adjust how this is packed. There we go. Got it turned over. All right, so those are 2 good looking jars. Might add just a little bit more liquid to this one. And if there's any food on those rims, it can prevent your jars from sealing. So that's why we always do that. I'm going to use my handy magnet. And the rings just need to be finger tight. And I'll set these in the canner. Quickly, while my third batch is boiling, we have just a couple minutes to talk before I have to pack my last 2 jars. I wanted to explain why I do this, why I hot pack instead of raw pack. A lot of people do peaches with a raw pack, which means that you still blanch the peaches so that it's easy to take the skins off. And blanching also helps to preserve the fruit because it kills or destroys enzymes that are then going to decay the fruit. So you still do the blanching, but you don't cook the fruit. You put your uncooked blanched fruit right into the jars, and then you pour your hot liquid, whether it's your sugar syrup or your juice or your honey syrup, pour it over the top right there in the jar and then seal the jars. Raw pack is a great thing. It works fine for a lot of people. I don't find the hot pack to be more difficult, and I do find that the quality of the product is a little higher, and I do like that, so that's why we hot pack. Now we've got to fill these jars. Last one. Here's what the finished jars look like. These are still kind of hot, so I haven't taken the rings off yet. We have 3 flats, and we'll have 4 flats before we're done tonight. So these are our treasures of the off-grid life, our home canned peaches. If you make peaches like this or your own way, let me know how it goes. I'm the Homestead Wife. Thanks for watching.